All right, so today we are dissecting a heart. This is the apex. This is the pointed end of the heart, and it consists of muscle from the left ventricle. And the top part of the heart is called the base. This is the point of attachment for blood vessels entering and exiting the heart. To know the difference of the anterior or posterior side of the heart, the anterior side has a coronary artery that goes from left to right, and then the posterior part of the sheep heart has a coronary artery that goes up and down, and that's how you can tell the difference. When looking at the posterior side of the heart, you can see that the left ventricle is right there, and then the right ventricle is on this side. And this right here is all the adipose tissue. And then this is the left atrium right there. And then the auricle of right atrium is right there. And then this is the arc of the aorta. This is the left auricle, and this is the right auricle, looking posterior. It's easier to see the auricles looking anterior because they kind of flip around, like right there, and then also right there. They kind of like flip around like ears. Also, the apex is inferior to the base of the heart because that is superior. Moving towards vessels, this is the pulmonary artery. This hole, my finger can't fit in there though. The pulmonary artery is a blood vessel that carries blood away from the heart. And when you go down into the pulmonary artery, that means you're going into a ventricle, which there are one of the two lower chambers of the heart, and they force blood into either the aorta or the pulmonary artery. Looking at this hole, this is the aorta, which is the large artery that emerges from the left ventricle, and that carries blood to the systematic circuit right there. Looking at the inferior side of the posterior side of the heart, this is the atrium, which goes directly into the inferior vena cava, which is a large vein that returns blood from the lower body regions to the right atrium. This is the left atrium, and then this part was the right atrium. Now I've split the heart into halves. And the interventricular septum is actually located right here. Now this is a muscular wall that is in between the right and left ventricles. When looking at the heart, you're gonna know that this is the right ventricle, and then this is the left ventricle. Only way to know this is because the right ventricle has thinner muscle walls because it only needs to pump blood to the lungs. And the left ventricle has a thicker wall of muscle because it needs to pump blood to the rest of your body. Also, when looking at it, your inferior vena cava is going to be up in this area inside. Right here is gonna be the chordae tendineae, which is fibrous cords that connect biscupid and triscupid valves with papillary muscles, which are also known as like the heartstrings. The papillary muscles are inside of the right ventricle, and those are muscles that anchor the chordae tendineae to the valves right inside there. When looking at it, you also have the trabeculae carneae, which are ridges and folds on the walls of the ventricles. So you can see them like inside of there. The pulmonary valves are actually inside of the ventricle, and you'll have to feel for them in here. Probably right there, right there.
So, find your fingers, you know where your pulmonary artery is. But we're still carrying a lot of carbon dioxide. Now we need to get to the alveoli to pick up some O2. As we pass through increasing bifurcations of the pulmonary arterial system, we get our oxygen by going next to the pulmonary capillaries and alveoli. We've dumped our carbon dioxide, picked up oxygen, and we're headed into the anastomoses of the pulmonary venous system. We enter the heart through the pulmonary veins, which are right here, inside there, into the left atrium. Then we bypass the left AV valve, its chordae tendineae, and into the left ventricle. And as before, the pressure builds, this time shutting the left AV valve. And we're ejected now out into the aorta. And you'll have to dig for that, and then you can find where the aorta is. And we're ejected quickly through the aortic semilunar valve in a toroidal vortex, which is like a smoke ring, into the ascending aorta. Before you begin cleaning up, ask your instructor to quiz each individual. In your group on the parts of the heart. Once quizzed and your instructor gives you the green light, go ahead and clean up your area, tools, and throw away your heart in the correct.
The pulmonary truck.
Ew. I'm doing this with the two. And I'm doing this two. I'm doing with the 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 two. Jesus is King, Jesus died. Hallelujah, Jesus is alive. Jesus is the star, Jesus side. Jesus is hallelujah, Jesus is the King, Jesus is alive. Jesus is the King, Jesus is alive. Ice people.